Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shakamvitamsha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So welcome to the Isopanisad course. This is also a bhaktisashtri course which we are conducting for one of the batches. So we have up till now discussed mantra 2. We discussed the introduction to Isopanishads. Then we went into the introduction lecture of the Isopanishads, which is their part of the Isopanishads, which was proper lecture delivered. And then we went into the invocation, mantra 1, mantra 2. So today we will discuss mantra 3. Okay. So mantra 3 is a very interesting mantra. We'll open it. Yes. Asurya namate loka andena tamasa vrataha tamste pretyabhigachanti ye ke chatmahano janaha. The killer of the soul, Atma Hano Jana. Whoever he may be, ye ke, must enter tamste pret abhigachanti, pretyabhigachanti it becomes, into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless. Asurya namate loka, full of darkness and ignorance. Andena tamasa vrata. So this is the connection to mantra 3. Mantra 1 spoke about the Ishavasya principle. Mantra 2 speaks about how one can live a long life. Jijivesh, Shatam Sama, it was mentioned. According to the Ishavasya principle, without being bound. That was the theme, Na karma liptate nare. It was mentioned. Now mantra 3 speaks about the harm of living in disharmony with the Ishavasya principle. If you don't live in harmony with the Ishavasya principle, which was discussed in mantra 1, now the contrast is being discussed in mantra 3. If you don't live, what is going to happen? You will enter into Asuryanam Teloka, which is filled with darkness and ignorance. And then, when will that happen? When you leave this body. Pretyabhigachanti. And who are they? They are actually the killers of the soul. So this is mantra 3. Now, the themes in the paragraphs. Prabhupada in paragraph 1 speaks about who is a demon. In paragraph 2, he speaks about who is a soul killer. Atmahana, it was mentioned. And the theme from paragraph 3 to 6 is liberate the soul, don't kill it. But within this theme, you can see that paragraphs 3 and 4 mention how the higher facilities of human form, if you don't use them, then you'll have to live worse than animals in this life and go to hell in the next. So this is, if you don't use that higher intelligence for God consciousness, cultivating Ishavasya principle, in this life also, we live miserably. In the next life, it's going to be more suffering. And liberate the soul. If you don't liberate the soul also, even failure in liberating the soul brings glorious results. Then what to speak of? Success. So this is something which is very hope-giving. And then the materialistic asuras make a show of religion. And then solve all problems forever is the theme in paragraph 6. So let us take now paragraph 1. So paragraph 1, we will go through it, and then some of the important themes and concepts we will discuss. Okay, so who will read paragraph 1? Just increase the font. Who will read paragraph 1? Any volunteers? Deep Dhatri Krishna Priya Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
You have to be, maybe my audio is low. Let me increase the volume. Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, it's very clear now.
Okay. Purport. Human life is distinguished from animal life due to its heavy responsibilities. Those who are cognizant of these responsibilities and who work in that spirit are called Sudras, godly persons. And those who are neglectful of these responsibilities or who have no information of them are called Asuras, demons. Throughout the universe, there are only these two types of human being. In the Rig Veda, it is stated that the sutras always aim at Suras always aim at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord Vishnu and act accordingly. Their ways are as illuminated as the path of the sun.
Yeah. So here Prabhupada mentions, that human life is of heavy responsibilities. Those who know these heavy responsibilities and work, they are suras. Those who don't work, they are asuras. And there are only these suras and asuras in this world. So there is a Bhagavad Gita quotation for it. Anyone knows the quotation? Throughout the universe, there are only these two types of human beings, suras and asuras. Which verse of Bhagavad Gita speaks about this? Anyone knows? Okay. And then there is another quote Prabhupada is mentioning how the suras always aim at the lotus feet of Vishnu and act. And their path is illuminated as the sun. So I will refer to those quotations now. So this is 16.6 in the Bhagavad Gita. Daiva Asur Sampad Yoga. 15.6, somebody pointed out, it is 16.6. Dao Bhuto Sarvosmin Lokesmin Daiva Asur Evacha Daiva Vistarasha Prokta Asuram Partha Meshunam. There are two types of created beings in this world. Thou means two. Bhuta means created. Sargosmin. They are like two types of living beings. The divine and the demonic. Daiva Asurevacha. I have described the divine at length. Daiva Vistarasya Prokta. Here from me about the demonic or son of Partha. Asuram Partham Meshva. So this is the quotation for this Sura and Asura, that there are only two types. And Prabhupada referred to that Vedic mantra, it is 122:20. Om Tat Padam Vishnu, also sometimes Om is there. Om Tat Padam, Om Tat Vishnu, Paramam Padam Sada, Pashyante Suraya Divivi Chakshur Atatam. Vishnurya Paramam Padam. The lotus feet of Lord Vishnu are the supreme objective of all the demigods. Paramam Padam Sada, Tad Vishnu. It is only the, they are always aiming at the lotus feet of Vishnu. Though these lotus feet of the Lord are as enlightening as the sun in the sky. Pashyanti Surya Divivi Chakshur Atatam. Vishnurya Tat Paramam Padam. So this is the quotations Prabhupada is referring to. Now let's come to the concept of who is an Asura. What is this term Asura? Sura and Asura has come. Sura we saw, but let us come to Asura. Who is an Asura? In Sanskrit, etymology means to study the origin of words. And we study the etymology means the root of the word. We have dhatus from which they come. Like dharma comes from the dri dhatu. Dri means to hold or sustain. So from the etymological sense, there is the origin of the words, we understand the meaning. Example is in English, lexicographer. In English, lexicographer is who? Lexico is a dictionary. And the writer of a dictionary is lexicographer is called. And please remember, Collin's dictionary, it's not some, Collin is actually the author, writer of that dictionary, that lexico. That's why it is called as Collin dictionary or Macmillan dictionary. Macmillan is the writer. So like that, actually the dictionary is called as, it's a lexico, and the writer is called as the grapher, lexicographer. Like there is calligraphy. Calligraphy means, beautiful handwriting. Graphy means to write, calli means very beautiful handwriting. So the etymological words might not be historically precise, but they are semantically precise. So they may not be historically precise, but semantically precise. Now, what does semantically precise means? Now, semantics means the study of language meaning. The meaning of a word, phrase, sentence, or text. Now, example is destination and last stop. Now, destination and last stop technically mean the same, but students of semantics analyze their subtle shades of meanings. So that is semantics. Now, I'll give you one example from the Gita to understand this. Now, in the Gita, in the Bhagavad Gita, there is one verse in the 9th chapter, which is, I think, 9:19. Let me see. Tapamyam, Gatir Bharta Prabhu Shakshi. 9.16, I think. Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi. So here, Gati means, Prabhupada translates as goal. I am the goal. So in that context, Gati means the last stop here, the end destination. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks in the 12th chapter about, Klesho Adhikarastesham Avyaktasakta Chetasam Avyaktahi Gatir Dukkham. Now, I will not show you the meaning of Gati. Now, what does Gati mean here now? Anyone can try. There also Krishna used the word Gati, and here also is using the word Gati. Now, this is what is called as semantics, that, the word has different shades of meanings based on the context it is used. So what does here Gati mean? Anyone can speculate. Try some semantic exercise. Anyone would like to try? What is the meaning of gati here? Anyone? Yes, Dwarkadish Prabhuji. Yes.
Like the result or the vidhi or result, something like that.
Oh, not self and Priya Mataji. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danvat Pranam. Am I audible?
Yes. Continue.
Yes. I'll just try. Let me know if my understanding is correct. Does it mean to make advancement or progress in devotional service to reach God?
Yeah, here it is the path of the Jnanis, so not for the path of reaching God. So here gati means not end destination. Gati means that path itself. So what does Prabhupada translate here? Progress, you can see here. So you can see, it's really amazing. Prabhupada, same word gati, there he said as goal and now he's saying progress. This path to make progress is difficult. Whereas there gati he used as goal. So this is what is called as semantics. That the words have subtle shades of meaning. So destination means, you are going towards the destination, but last stop means you are at the last stop, So that's why they don't take these two meanings as the same. They understand the fine subtleties in the meanings. So this is what is called as semantics. Now, why we're discussing all this is to understand the word asura. Because, Sanskrit has this etymological meaning, but it has to be also semantically. These etymological words are semantically precise, and what does semantics means is we discussed. Now, similarly, asura, if you break it, asu means, life heirs. Gatasuna, agatasuncha. Bhagavad Gita, right first instruction when Gita Krishna speaks, asu means life heirs. 2.11 in the Gita. Gatasun, agatasuncha. Asun, life heirs. See here. So asu means life heirs, and ra means ramante. The root meaning ra means to ramante. So asura means one who enjoys life heirs. The body, asura, is not a species, but also a mentality. So who is an asura? One who is enjoying on the bodily concept, he's an asura. That is a very broad meaning of an asura. So that's why, we should have this understanding. Asura is not just a, demon who is very demonic. Anyone who is enjoying on the bodily concept of life, he's an asura. So that's how we can understand what is an asura. So in the Ramayana, the battle was between Rakshasas and the Manavas. We know that. And in the Mahabharata, it was Manavas versus Manavas. There was Ghatotkach on the Pandava side, and there was Alambush on the one second, somehow did not fit in. Alambush. So both were, human beings, but there is difference. So that's why asura is more a mentality than a species. So these were only two asuras in the Manava and Mana fight. They were, demonic species. They were in demonic species, Ghatotkach and Alambush. But in Ramayana, they were all Rakshasas and they were Manavas. That was the combination. So asura is more a mentality than a species. And Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, there is a description of this demonic nature. Dambo, Darpo, Abhimanascha, it begins there, So asura is more to do with a mentality rather than a species. Asura is also a species, but it is also a mentality, and that meaning we can get from this Asu and Ramante, one who enjoys life here. So this is, the quotations are very clear in paragraph 1, but this is the meaning of Asura, who is an Asura. So any questions on this? Otherwise, we can go to the next paragraph of Isopanishads. Any questions on this up till now, what we have discussed? I hope it is clear. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph. The next paragraph, as I mentioned, the theme is who's a soul killer? Atma Hano. Atma Hano was a term which has come. Who is the soul killer? Is the next paragraph. Prabhupada discusses that. So who will read paragraph 2? Okay, Ratna Mataji, yes. Srivalli Ratna Mataji is going to read paragraph 2. Yes. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Intelligent human beings must always remember that the soul contains a human form after an evolution of
Soul obtains.
Sorry?
Soul obtains.
Sorry, yes, Prabhu. Intelligent human beings must always remember that the soul obtains a human form after an evolution of many millions of years in the cycle of transmigration. The material world is sometimes compared to an ocean, and the human body is compared to a solid boat designed specially to cross this ocean. The Vedic scriptures and the acharyas or saintly teachers are compared to expert boatmen, and the facilities of the human body are compared to favorable breezes that help the boat fly smoothly to its desired destination. If, with all these facilities, a human being does not fully utilize his life for self realization, he must be considered Atmaha, a killer of the soul. Sri Isopanishad warns in clear terms that the killer of the soul is destined to enter into the darkest region of ignorance to suffer perpetually.
Perpetually here means, it's not literally, because it's for a long time, just like Swarga is Amar, like that, it has been used. And here you can see again, Ha means Hanyate, Hani. Hani means killing, So that is the root meaning of Atma Ha. So Prabhupada is referring to which verse from the Bhagavatam? This is an entire paraphrase of a verse from the Bhagavatam. So which verse is Prabhupada referring to? Anyone knows? Which verse is Prabhupada quoting? Okay. So Prabhupada is quoting Nardehamadyam sulabam sudurlabam plavam sukalpam gurukarnadharam mayanukulena nabasvate tiram umam bhavabdim natare sa atmaha. The human body, nirdeyam, which can award all benefit in life, adyam, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature, sulabham. So naturally, as you evolve from the lower species, your consciousness goes higher, higher, higher. After millions of births, you naturally evolve to the human form of life. So that's how it is sulabham. You get it naturally. So it is sulabham, at the same time it is sudurlabham. Although it is very rare achievement, sudurlabham. The human body is compared to a perfectly constructed boat. Plavam sukalpam. It is a sukalpam plavam. Having the spiritual master as the captain, Guru Karna Dharam, and the instructions of the personality of Godhead as favorable winds impelling it on its course. Maya anukolena nabasva Namaswate iritam. Considering all these advantages, a human being, Puman, who does not utilize his human life, na taret, to cross the ocean of material existence, bhavabdim, must be considered the killer of his own soul. Sa atmaha. So the human body is a boat, and boat needs a captain, that is a spiritual master. And when you have a boat in the ocean, the boat has to reach certain destination, and the winds play the major role. So the winds are instructions of the Lord and the spiritual master, Maya Anukelena. So these are compared to desires. So, our material desires means the boat is going in a different direction. It will not go to the lotus feet of the Lord. But the instructions of the spiritual master and the Lord, and according to that instructions, when we act, we are moving towards the lotus feet of the Lord. So that's Maya Anukulena. And one who doesn't utilize all these advantages and doesn't cross this material ocean, then he's the killer of the soul. So Prabhupada is practically quoting this, and then he says that the killer of the soul is going to glide or suffer in hell perpetually. Now let's come to this term, which is called as Atmaha. Now, it was very clearly mentioned that, he's a killer of the soul. Now, how can be the soul killed, because in the Bhagavad Gita 2:17, it is said that the soul is indestructible. Avinashi tu tad vidhi, yena sarvam vidam tatam, vinasham avyayasyasya na kashit karatum arasi. Know that it is indestructible, avinashi tu tad vidhi, know that. By it, the body is pervaded. Yena sarvam idam tatam. No one can destroy. Na kashit vinasham kartum arati. That which is indestructible. Avyayasyasya. So, what is being spoken? The killer of the soul. How can the soul be killed? Because the soul is indestructible ontologically. And here, it's like mentioned, Trividam Narkasedam Dwaram Nashanam Atmana, that the soul is destroyed here. Kama Krodha Sata Lobas Tasmad Etam Trayatavit. Lust, anger, greed, Kama Krodha Loba Tata Loba, the three gates leading to hell, Narkas Trividam Dwaram, destroy the self. Atmana Nashanam. Therefore, one should give up these three. Tasmad Etat Trayam Tajet. So the soul ontologically cannot be killed because it is eternal. But when we say that the Nashanam Atmana means the soul's consciousness to be Krishna consciousness, that gets killed. So the path of self-realization, that path is destroyed because the soul is always conscious entity, but the consciousness gets degraded and it cannot be elevated to self-consciousness or self-realization of Krishna consciousness. That gets destroyed. So that is, we should not take the literal meaning here that the soul is destroyed like that. So let us come to, who is a Atmaha. Atmaha it is actually, Sanskrit. So how do we read the verses? Because, here it is mentioned, Nashanam Atmana. You should not take it literally. And this is ontologically the reality. Here it is very clear. So how to read the meanings of the words? That is what we are going to see now. Use of figurative expressions. There is something called as a Mukhya Vritti or Abhidha Vritti and Gauna Vritti or Lakshana Vritti. So Mukhya Vritti means the primary meaning. Vritti means the mode of understanding. Word. What is the mode of understanding? Abhidha means the primary meaning or the central meaning. And Gaunamikti means the symptomatic meaning or the Lakshana meaning, the secondary meaning. So here in 11:20:17, the soul's real life, that is Krishna consciousness, that gets destroyed. That is what is, taken. The Lakshana Vritti meaning has been taken and not the Mukhya Vritti meaning. We have to understand that. So let's come to this understanding of the concept of Mukhya Vritti and Gauna Vritti. Now I'm taking one example here. Two examples I'll be taking. Arjuna is asking in 254, Sita pragyasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sitadi kim prabhaseta kim asita vrajeta kim. O Keshava, what is the description of this person situated in samadhi? Samadhistasya ka bhasha. Bhasha means to speak, right? Language. The Sita pragya, how does he speak? Sitadi kim prabhaseta. Prabhaseta means how does he speak? How does he sit? Kim asita. And how does he move? Kim vrajet. So if you take the direct meaning, which is called as abhidha vritti or the mukhya vritti, this verse doesn't make sense. How does a self-realize? What are the symptoms of a self-realized person? How does he speak? How does he sit? How does he walk? Somebody who's a model, and he walks on the ramp and then he sits for a pose, and then again he moves. And he speaks, like whether he speaks English or Russian or Bengali. So this is what Arjuna is asking about. No. So here the direct meaning of, kim prabhaseta, kim asita, kim prajeta doesn't make sense. So there you have to take the secondary meaning or the lakshana vritti to understand this verse. So here there is again another question by Arjuna in 1421. Kairlinges tringunanetan atito bhavati prabhu kimachara katam chaitam tringunan ativartate. O Prabhu, by what symptoms Kairlinga is a person known to be beyond the gunas? Etan tringunan atito bhavati. What is his conduct? Kimachara. How does he surpass the gunas? Katam cha etan tringunan ativartate. So here, linga actually, when a child is born, traditionally in the olden times, not today, they used to ask, what is the linga? That means whether it is a male or a female. So ling can refer that. But ling also has a deeper meaning as to symptoms. So what are the symptoms? So here you cannot take the direct meaning. You have to take the lakshana vritti, symptomatic meaning here of the meaning of linga. So the words have to be understood by the mukhya vritti and the gauna vritti. Similarly, we have to understand atmaha as through the gauna vritti and not through the mukhya vritti. So Madhvacharya in his writings mentions about reading scriptures. There are 3 levels of reading, especially with the respect to the itihasas and puranas. He mentions this. So there is a literal reading. The events described in these literatures happened historically as they were described. So this is literal reading. These are historical events, the Ramayana, whatever it is. They are historical events, and just reading like that also is purifying. Then there can be something called as an ethical reading, that these historical events serve as moral benchmark to guide us in our present day ethical decision making. So you can have a literal reading of the scripture, but you can also do an ethical reading of the scripture. And then there is what is called as the metamorphical or the figurative reading. These historical events symbolize truths relevant to seekers on the spiritual path. Now let's come to some examples, especially of reading of itihasas and puranas like Ramayana and Mahabharata. Example of literal reading: Ravan abducts Sita. Literal reading purifies us. Just literal reading of hearing this pastime, it is going to have purification. But example of ethical reading is Sita got attracted to the golden deer. Ethical lesson: not to be attracted to Maya when we are with the Lord. So this is the ethical reading, how we can take it. Then example of metamorphical readings. These events are historical. There can be further meaning derived looking them as symbols. Example, the 6 children killed by Kamsa, then Balram, and then Krishna appears. This symbol is that when the 6 anarthas are killed, The spiritual master appears and then Krishna appears in the heart. But it does not mean that the actual events of Kamsa killing the sick children did not happen. So it's not just to be taken symbolically. And Prabhupada was very heavy about it, especially with respect to the Gita, because the whole Gita, they took it as a metamorphical reading. There was no Kurukshetra, there was no battle, because how can, such a ghastly war happen, giving the message of, peace and unity of the Gita. So some could not fathom it, and that's why they said, everything should be read metamorphically. It should not be taken as a literal event. Kurukshetra means his body, Pandavas means the 5 senses. So the symbolic readings can be done, but it has to be, the acharyas gave us how to, how they have analyzed and given us the symbolic expressions, especially Vishwanath Chakra Thakur does this. And in the Sri Sampradaya, there is Vedanta Desika, who is called as the Tarka Ratna. He is the king of the logicians, of course, Shastric logic. And he mentions that Lanka is this body and Sita is the soul. And Ravana is compared to what? Anyone knows? In the symbolic reading, Ravana is compared to what? Anyone knows? I told Sita is compared to this soul. Lanka is compared to the body. And Ravana is compared to what? Anyone? Try it. Reena Mataji, yes. Yes, Ravana is compared to what? Please don't type. You can.
It's senses.
How many senses we have?
There are 15.
15.
मतलब कर्मेंद्रिय जैसे all ज्ञान इंद्रिय कर्मेंद्रिय and विषय विषय
Clear. Yeah. It's not actually, okay, there are many answers typed. Mind, 6, Maya, mind. Okay. So I'll show the verse. Mahabhutani ahankaro buddhira vyaktamecha indriyane dashekam cha. Indriyani dash ekam. Dasha means 10, ekam means 11. So Ravana represents, the karmendriyas and the jnanendriyas and the mind. That is what is the dashekam. Dashekam, total 11. The Panch Mahabhutas are here, the 5 elements. So Ravana, was harassing Sita. And I told Sita is compared to the soul. And Lanka is compared to the body. And Hanuman is the spiritual master. Hanuman is the spiritual master who takes Sita and unites with Ram. Now, because Sita is compared to the soul, it doesn't mean that the soul is, Sita is, the Antaranga Shakti of the Lord. It is a figurative reading. So similarly, when the soul, what comes in this material world, he is harassed by Ravana in the form of these 10 senses and the mind. And the soul is harassed within. And he is living in this body. And only when he comes in touch with the spiritual master, he connects us back to Krishna. I'll take up the questions a little bit once I finish this discussion on this Mukhya Vritti and Gaun Vritti. We are still discussing that. So this is what is called as the metamorphical reading. So we saw this 6 children being killed by Kamsa. Now, Kamsa, moment this child was born, Kamsa is to come and he's to, very brutally bang this child on the rock and kill it very ruthlessly, right in front of Devaki's eyes. So for the mother, how painful it had been, you cannot even imagine. So what this represents is Devaki represents bhakti. And when these 6 anarthas in the form of kama, krodha, they manifest, kamsa is that, fear personified. We should become fearful. Or these kama is, getting activated in my body. I should immediately, take shelter of holy name, take shelter of Guru, Shastra, pray. So Kamsa is that, moment Devaki used to give birth, she used to have fear of Kamsa. So we should also have that, fear of Kamsa, so that Kamsa can come and kill these enemies. So that's how, but it doesn't mean that literally this event did not happen. So these are symbolic readings which we can apply and actually, derive deeper benefit of understanding Shastra. Now, there are some important points about, Mukhya Vritti and Gauna Vritti, metamorphical versus literal, has to be taken carefully and taken in a proper context so that we don't make any misjudgments. We don't speculate and come up with this. Usually acharyas give it, and it is best, we directly refer to the acharyas who have given this kind of symbolic readings. And, it requires quite expertise in Shastra to come up with your own metamorphical analysis. Metaphorical readings have to be done in such a way that they are consistent with the scriptural message. This is very important. And metamorphical should supplement, not supplant the literal reading, unless the literal reading leads to obvious absurdities. So it is a supplement. I told you there is some additional symbolic reading, gives some additional insight into that pastime. And you don't say that, oh, there was no battle of Kurukshetra, or there was no, Devaki never gave birth to 6 children like that. So you should not supplant it. It's like a supplement. So unless there is some absurdity, there is, his house is on Ganga. Gangayam Gosham, there is that verse, very famous. In the Nyaya Sutras, we study this. How can the bank, he have a house on the Ganga? So it means his house is not on the Ganga, on the bank of Ganga. That is how we should understand it. Otherwise, it is absurd. His house is on Ganga. So that is some caution about literal and metamorphical reading. And now I'm going to give this quotation from the Bhagavatam to explain this Mukhya Vritti and Gauna Vritti. We should consider that words have 3 kinds of expressive capacities called Shabda Vrittis. I mentioned Mukhya Vritti, Gauna Vritti. Now here Prabhupada mentions 3 here. This is actually a commentary from the Bhagavatam. These are the different ways a word conveys its meaning, distinguished as Mukhya Vritti, Lakshana Vritti, and Gauna Vritti. So there is subdivision here done, and within Mukhya also there is subdivision. Let us see. The Shabda Vritti term Mukhya is the primary, literal meaning of the word. This is known as Abhidha, a word's denotation or dictionary meaning. Mukhya Vritti is further divided into 2 subcategories, namely Rudhi and Yog. Now within Mukhya there is 2, Rudhi and Yog. A primary meaning is called Rudhi when it is based on conventional usage, and Yog when it is derived from another word's meaning by regular etymological rules. So let's see that. For example, the word go, cow, is the example of Rudhi. Conventional meaning is go means cow, not English go. Gopal, cow herder, taker of, one who is caretaker of cows. Since its relation is with the literal meaning is purely conventional. The denotation of the word pachaka, chef, on the other hand, is yoga vritti, through a word's derivation from the root pach. So etymologically, pach means to cook, and pachaka, by adding the suffix, you're getting pachaka, one who cooks. The chef is called as pachak. Pach means to cook, and pachaka means one who cooks. Similarly, the word Krishna has etymological sense, Krish and Na, all attractive. And conventional usage is Krishna means one who is the son of Mother Yashoda and who sucks Mother Yashoda's breast milk. So that is the conventional meaning of who is Krishna. So like that, words have this, two subdivisions within the primary. Now let's come to the, besides its mukvriti primary meaning, a word can also be used in a secondary metamorphical sense. This usage is called lakshana. The rule is that a word should not be understood metaphorically if its mukhya vritti makes sense in the given context. Only after the mukhya vritti fails to convey a word's meaning may lakshana vritti be justifiable, be presumed. So we saw that Sita Pragya Ka Bhasha, mukhya vritti doesn't make sense. Then lakshana vritti. So this was the argument Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to Sarvam Bhattacharya, that you Shankarites, Mayavadi followers, you take all the Vedanta Sutra meanings based on Lakshana Vritti, symptomatic meaning, and you never take the direct meaning. So you speculate and come up with, secondary meanings. Only when the primary meaning in that verse doesn't make sense, then only you can see the Lakshana Vritti. The function of Lakshana is technically explained in the Kavya Shastras as an extended reference pointing to something in some way related to the object of the literal meaning. Thus, the word Gangayam Gosha literally means the cowherd village in the Gangas. But that idea is absurd. So here Gangayam should rather be understood by its Lakshana to mean on the banks of Ganges. The bank is something related to river. So it's, it's technically, it's used in Kavya Shastra as a reference or pointing to something. Gauna Vritti is a special kind of Lakshana where the meaning is extended to some idea of similarity. So here there are three divisions done, Lakshana and Gauna. Gaun has some idea of similarity and Lakshana is something relatable, bank of Ganga, you saw that. So here the example is given of Devadatta. Devadatta is a lion. So Simmo Devadatta. Devadatta is lion. It doesn't mean that Devadatta is actually lion. He's heroic. So Devadatta is metaphorically called a lion because of his lion-like qualities. In contrast, the example of the general kind of Lakshana involves a relationship not of similarity but of location. So Arjuna is called as Purusha Vyagra, best among the tigers. So tiger is known for his strength. So that's how he is addressed as Purusha Vyagra. So that's how Atmaha has to be taken not by the Mukhya Vritti meaning, but by the Gauna Vritti. So this is regarding, the concept of Mukhya Vritti and Gauna Vritti. Okay, any questions about this? I know many devotees are coming to know about this concept of Mukhya Vritti and Gauna Vritti for the first time. So it is a little difficult, but these are foundational, terminologies and concepts we should study. Otherwise, it's difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and other works. Yes, Anand Kishori Mataji, you have a question? Yeah, I've unmuted you. Hare Krishna. Okay, there is no response. So any questions regarding this Mukhya Vritti and Gauna Vritti? Yes, Birendra Yadav Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandotna. Prabhu,
Yes.
just clarification. So we understand that when Mukhya Vritti fails to convey the real message, then only God Vrittis are applied. That's right, Prabhu?
Correct. Like in the verse Sita Pragya, Mukhya Vritti
Right.
does not make sense. Any other questions regarding Mukhya Vritti, Gauna Vritti? So now Atmaha, I hope is very, very clear. It's not, that the soul is killed, because the soul ontological cannot be, it is eternal. So the soul's real life, or Krishna, the consciousness of the soul, to practice or to realize the self, that propensity is killed. So that is how we understand. Okay, Sri Valli Mataji, you have a question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. It's not about the vritti and all that one, but I have a question regarding this Atmaha.
Yeah.
Can you explain this in context to the last class that we had where we tried to understand the concept of sin?
Uh-huh.
In relation to that, could you explain Atmaha? Under which category does this come into? I mean, what I want to try and understand is this is from what I've been able to get into my mind till now. It's for Jnana Yogis, right? It's
No.
from that.
Atmaha, you see, there's the level of understanding of sin. For a Karma Yogi, not performing his duties is sin. Not performing his duties is sin. But for a Jnana Yogi, if he doesn't purify his consciousness, then it is deviation, then it is sin. For a Bhakti Yogi, to forget Krishna is a sin. So the conception of sin is going on higher levels. But here, Atmaha, we are trying to understand what, is it literally meaning that it is the soul is killed or what? No, it is not literal. It has to be, read by Gauna Vritti or the Lakshana Vritti. Or specifically Lakshana. Gaun is, meta similarity. When there is similarity comparison, then technically it comes in the Gauna Vritti. So Vritti means the mode of understanding of the meanings of the words. Semantics. We went into the semantics of
So
understanding
this
of
and
the.
that is completely different, Prabhuji.
Yes. They are two different concepts. We cannot mix those concepts.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, I got it. Okay. Any other questions regarding this concept of Atmaha? Okay, so then now we will go to paragraph 3. Paragraph 3 to 6 speak about now liberate the soul, don't kill it. And if you don't use the higher facilities of human form, then have to live worse than animals in this life and go to hell in the next. Paragraphs 3 and 4 speak about it. So we will go to paragraphs 3 and 4. I will open another Veda base, just have Isopanisad, because sometimes I'm referring to other verses and I'm showing that so that you all can note down the references in your Isopanishads books. I hope many of the devotees are sitting with their books. It's important, especially like in bhaktisashtri classes. For this, we should we should go, like just Prabhupada said, our temples are universities where we study these courses systematically. So this reference, we know two types of beings, Daiva and Asura, 16.6, and Rig Veda Mantra also we know. So Prabhupada paragraphs 3 and 4 mentions that if you don't use this higher facilities of the human form to liberate, then you will glide and you'll suffer more. And then in the future, you're going to suffer more in hell. So Prabhupada brings out that theme in paragraphs 3 and 4. There are swine, dogs, camel, asses, etc., whose economic necessities are just as important to them as are ours. Just are important as ours. But the economic problems of the animals are solved under nasty, unpleasant conditions. Please think and reflect about it. The dog or even the monkeys here in Vrindavan, they are taking, they're so much careful that somebody, the mosquito is eating its food, that is human blood, and then he gets one shot and is killed. And imagine if you are in the dining table and you're going to have, and somebody is with the axe, ready to chop you, what would be your condition? So that is how nasty their, economic necessities are taken care. Human life, I have no fear like that. The human being is given all facilities for a comfortable life by the laws of nature, because the human form of life is more important and valuable than animal life. Why is a man given a better life than that of a swine and other animals? Why is a highly placed government servant given better facilities than those of ordinary clerk? The answer is that the highly placed officer has to discharge duties of higher nature. Similarly, the human form of life means to discharge higher duties. Similarly, duties human beings have to perform are higher than those of animals who are always engaged simply in feeding their hungry stomachs. Yet the modern soul-killing civilization has only increased the problems of hungry stomach. When we approach a polished animal in the form of modern civilized man and ask him to take interest in self-realization, he will say that he simply wants to work to satisfy his stomach and that there is no need of self-realization for hungry man. The laws of nature are so cruel, however, that despite the denunciation of the need of self-realization and his eagerness to work hard to fill his stomach, he is always threatened by unemployment. We are given this human form of life not to work hard like asses, swine, and dogs, but to attain the highest perfection of life. If we don't care for self-realization, the laws of nature force us to work hard, even though we may not want to do so. And Prabhupada, in one of his lectures, mentions Prabhupada was in Japan and he was seeing that people are getting into the boat, crossing the river, just to go and work on the other side of the river. And he says, see the struggle. The birds, for their necessity of food, they just fly in the sky. And, they get their food, somewhere in the tree. And the humans, just for their food, they have to sit in a boat, cross the boat. And in Bombay, some people in the early morning, 5 o'clock, they sit in the train, they rush in the train, 3 hours, they journey and come to South Bombay, Nariman Point, work whole day, and then 7 o'clock leave and reach 10 o'clock and reach home till 11 o'clock. So very hard, Human beings in this age have been forced to work hard like asses and bullocks that pull carts. Some of the regions where the asuras are sent to work are revealed in this verse of Sri Upanishads. If a man fails to discharge his duties as a human being, he is forced to transmigrate to the asura planets and take birth in degraded species of life to work hard in ignorance and darkness. Andena tamasa vrita. So the point Prabhupada is mentioning that after getting the human form of life, if we don't discharge higher duties and we use our intelligence in more eating, mating, sleeping, and depending, our struggle for material existence also will become more difficult than the animals first. And our life will become more hellish here. And in the future, we'll go and suffer in hell. That's it. Now, there's an interesting quotation I would like to share with you all, which Vidura speaks to Maitreya. Very, very interesting quotation this is. Human life versus animal life. Arvak strotastu navama shattar eko vido nranam rajo adhika karma para dukkecha sukamanina. So there were 10 types of living beings created, and now he is speaking about the Navama. O Vidura, Shatta, the 9th class consists of beings in which the food is distributed downwards. Arvak Shrotas to Navama. So these are the, trees, Padapa. They are called as Padapa. They drink through the roots. There is only one class, human beings, Eko Vido Ranam, who have a predominance of Raja Adhika, and who are dedicated to work, Karma Para, and who thinks themselves happy even in distress. Dukkha cha sukha manina. So this is human beings. Now the purport is very, very interesting, Prabhupada's purport here. The human being is more passionate than animals, and thus the sex life of the human being is more irregular. The animals have their due time for sexual intercourse, but the human being has no regular time for such activities. The human being is endowed with a higher advanced state of consciousness for getting relief from the existence of material miseries. But due to his ignorance, he thinks that his higher consciousness is meant for advancing in the material comforts of life. Thus, his intelligence is misused in animal propensities of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating instead of spiritual realization. By advancing in material comforts, the human being puts himself into more miserable condition. But illusioned by material energy, he always thinks himself happy, even while in the midst of misery. Dukkha sukhamanina. Such misery of human life is distinct from the natural, comfortable life. So the village life is austere for the body, but it is peaceful for the mind. And the city life, there are a lot of comforts for the body, but it is very, very, all the comforts of the body bring on all kinds of psychological problems in the mind. So the more you give comforts for the body, the more miserable you are going to become at a subtle level, at a psychological level. So this is brought out in this purport of Prabhupada. That's paragraph 3 and 4. So now let's go to paragraph 5. Any questions up till now? Paragraph 3 and 4. Somebody had raised their hand. Anang Kishori Mataji had raised her hand. You had some question, Mataji? No. Okay. Dwarka Rishkoviji. Yes.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhu, these humans are supposed to do the higher duties. So it's
Pardon?
humans are supposed to do higher duties as per the purport.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it something related to the varnas? So a Shudra is supposed to do a higher duty. Does he have a higher duty?
Yes, Shudras are also in the Varnashram, and as per their Varna, they are also doing their duties.
But higher
That
duty,
is
I am considering the word higher. The word higher, how it's linked to the.
You are misconstruing the words. In the Varnashram, Brahmana is doing his duties according to Shastra. Kshatriya is doing his duties according to Shastra. They are also higher. And Vaishyas are also doing duties. They are also higher duties. Shudra is also, according to his Varna, doing the duties. That is serving all the 3 other orders. That is also higher duties.
Okay.
All are in Varnashram.
Okay.
Because they are doing their duties as per their Varna and Ashram.
Okay.
So that is what is different. And at the highest level, it is Parodharma. But this will lead to pious life, which will help you to more and more hear and chant and ultimately take up to pure devotional service.
Okay.
Yeah, clear, no?
Clear.
Yeah. Any other questions up till now? So let's take now paragraph 5. Paragraph 5. Yeah. Now, paragraph 5, as I mentioned, the theme is that you have to liberate the soul, and if you don't use the higher facilities, then you degrade, you suffer in this life and go to hell next. And even if you don't liberate it, but even if you fail in that process, it's still more glorious result than what to speak of the result if you get success. That's the point Prabhupada brings out in paragraph 5. Okay, who will read this paragraph 5? Who will volunteer? Lata Mataji, yes. Yes.
Hey Krishna Prabhu. In Bhagavad Gita 6.41 to 43, it is stated that a man who enters upon the path of self-realization but does not complete the process, despite having sincerely tried to realize his relationship with God, is given a chance to appear in a family of Suchi or Srimad. The word Suchi indicates a spiritually advanced Brahmana, and Srimad indicates a Vaishya, a member of the mercantile family. So the person who fails to achieve the self-realization is given a better chance in his next life due to his sincere efforts in this life. If even a fallen candidate is given a chance to take birth in a respectable and noble family, one can hardly imagine the status of one who has achieved success. By simply attempting to realize God, one is guaranteed birth in a wealthy or aristocratic family. But those who do not even make an attempt, who want to be covered by illusion, who are too materialistic and too attached to the material enjoyment, must enter into the darkest region of hell, as confirmed throughout the Vedic literature. Such materialistic asuras sometimes make a show of religion, but their ultimate aim is material prosperity. The Bhagavad Gita 16.17 to 18 rebukes such men by calling them Atma Sambhavita, meaning that they are considered great only on the strength of deception and are empowered by the oaths of the ignorant and by their own material wealth. Such asuras, devoid of self-realization and knowledge of Ishavasya, the Lord's universal proprietorship, are certain to enter into the darkest regions.
So here Prabhupada basically speaks about that even if you take up the self-realization and you don't attain success, what is the glory? You will be born Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yogo Brashta Abhijayate. Suchinam refers to the Brahmanas, Srimatam refers to the wealthy aristocratic family, especially the the rich families, aristocratic families, the Vaishya families is same. But Prabhupada in one of his letters mentions that there is also danger, especially in the Srimatam. Born in an aristocratic family, you might get attracted to the opulences and it's difficult to give up and take up the self-realization. Whereas born in the Srimatam, Suchinam family also, you can be proud that I'm born in a Brahmana family and you get attached to Brahminical duties, Patan Patan Yajan, and forget, to take up pure devotional service. So there is always that danger. Prabhupada brings out that in one of his letters, And we see, His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj was born in a very, very wealthy family. His father was a attorney, very wealthy. And, this is there narrated by Maharaj himself that, once both their children, he and his sister, were sitting and having breakfast with their father, and the mother was serving. And his sister wanted another clothes set. She had a wardrobe with 360 dresses, and she wanted another one. And this time they said no, and she was very upset in the dining table, and she was, fighting. And Maharaj was saying, in spite of having so much, still dissatisfied. So when Maharaj joined Prabhupada, both the father and mother came to meet Prabhupada and they gave him a blank check. Give us our boy back. Prabhupada said, he's there, if you want to take him. So sometimes it can become an obstacle. That's what Prabhupada says. But this is in the Vedic context, where, facility for practicing the, spiritual life was more conducive. So, but this is the reality that those who practice any path, be it Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Jnana Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, based on their path, they will be accordingly, maybe those who are Karma Yoga, they are more in the Varnashram, they might be in South India born. Those who are Bhakti Yogis, they might be born in Gaudiya Vaishnava families, Brahmana families, Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Like that, it will vary. So that's the point here. So that's what Prabhupada quotes. And Prabhupada quotes also, we saw that those who, make a show of religion, Atma Sambhavita, on the strength of their deception, they carry the Dharma Dwaja just to show that I'm very dharmic. They will take a procession. Atma Sambhavita Sabda, Dhanamana Madanvita, Yajante Nama Yagyashcha, Te Dambena Vadi Avidi Purvakam. Yajante Nama Yagyashcha. They are doing the Nam Yagya, not of the holy name, to show how big I am, in name only. And when it starts with this verse in the Bhagavad Gita, especially in the 16th chapter, Krishna mentions the quality of demonic species. He says, Dambo Darpo Abhimanasya. Damba is pride, Darpa is arrogance, Abhimana is conceit. These are various shades, You take a procession of your pride. They conduct religious yagyas just to, make a show of it. And in today's context, nobody does these kind of traditional yagyas. Especially in marriages, they want to show how much wealth they have, and they, try to exhibit that. Pride, there's a, the exhibition of pride. The parade of pride is Abhiman, conceit. Darpa is arrogance, it comes out in their speech. Pro the Parasham, harsh speech, it comes out. So this is cheating in the name of, dharma, dharma dvajis, they are called as dharma dvajis. So that's the point Prabhupada makes. And he says how glorious it is that if one takes up to this path, he will get this kind of a birth where he can make further elevation. Then what to speak of one who has attained success. So now Prabhupada concludes the last paragraph. Okay, who will read the concluding paragraph? I want to ask Vinati Harjini Mat. You are there?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes. You can read the last paragraph.
Yes, Prabhuji. The conclusion is that as human beings, we are meant not simply for solving economic problems on a tottering platform, but for solving all the problems of the material life into which we have been placed by the laws of nature.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
So Prabhupada concludes that, basically this paragraphs 3 and 4, what he has mentioned that the higher facilities are given for self-realization. Otherwise, we are going to glide. So here he concludes that we should not just solve our economic problems on the tottering platform. So we on this, in this Bhavasagar, Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Talamala. We are like that water on the lotus leaf. Anytime it can drip and fall, and anytime anything can happen. Padam Padam Yad Vibatam Tesham. So, what's the point? If you try to, strive to solve economic problems, ultimately death will come and everything will be taken away. Everything will be taken away. But we have to solve the real problems of material life. Our real problems are Janm Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. So these are the real problems, and we should not get too much caught up in trying to solve the economic problems at the sacrifice of our main endeavor, which is to solve the main problems of life, that is birth, death, old age, disease. So that's how Prabhupada concludes paragraph 6 of the mantra. So that ends the discussion of mantra 3. Mantra 4 to 7 is very, very interesting, very philosophical. How to have the vision of what is the vision to see the Ishvara. Very, very interesting discussion, which we will begin from tomorrow. So any questions, any clarifications up till now? Okay. Vinita Mataji, yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, honestly, it is getting a little difficult to understand the whole thing, like paragraph wise, paraphrase wise, and it's like probably we forget it also. So can you help us to form it in question answer form because normally we humans keep asking questions and getting answers, and it becomes a little simpler.
Yeah, yeah, I understand your genuine concern, and factually, Isopanishads is very philosophical, and usually what happens is we are not trained in studying Shastra systematically. So there are themes. Who is a soul killer? That is spoken in paragraph 2 of this purport. Who is a soul killer? So basically, what there is a systematic way of studying Shastra, that you study this paragraph, and okay, Prabhupada is paraphrasing, as I mentioned, one verse from the Bhagavatam. And based on that, he's saying that one who doesn't use this facility is a Atmaha. And this Atmaha is going to enter into the Andena Tamasavrata. So you should be able to get the essence of this paragraph. Now I'm mentioning what this paragraph theme is. And then I'm going into certain concepts. And we discussed the concept of Mukhya Vritti and Gauna Vritti and how to understand, Atmaha. Today we went into the discussion of Asura. Who is an Asura? Asu means life heirs and Ra means Ramante. So these are concepts which I'm discussing along with the paragraph themes. So this is how we need to systematically study, and it takes time. In fact, it will take some years, and only when you start studying even proper small books, study the paragraphs, see what quotations Prabhupada is giving, and in each paragraph, what is that essence, you should be able to summarize in one line. And say there are 15 paragraphs in one essay, in one chapter. So all the 15 paragraphs summarized, you should have 15 statements. And some statements, some paragraphs might have common themes. So we saw the common themes here, that there is the common theme here, and within that, there are the sub-themes.
Okay.
So like that, this kind of a systematic study will help us in the long run to study Shastra systematically, and that's why I'm taking this kind of methodology. So kindly hold on. This is the first time you are getting this kind of understanding, and you start applying it over a period of time. And over a period of time, then you will be able to, do it on your own. It takes some time. Even when you start studying Prabhupada books, you mark these paragraphs. Para 1 to 3 are describing this particular theme. Then there is a change in the topic. Then this is the theme which is being discussed. Then your study becomes systematic, and you'll be able to understand Shastra properly. So this is my understanding, and we are studying now like this. So by the end of entire Mantra 18, you will get a little familiar with this methodology of study. And when you slowly over the period of time, in fact, Isopanishads you need to hear many times. Isopanishads and Bhagavad Gita, many years of study is required to grasp, because it is philosophical, and there are a lot of concepts which are principles which are difficult for us to understand. So we have to hear and repeatedly hear. And over a period, when we do it as a sadhana, then the subject starts getting internalized. And then, we start getting the right understanding, Shastric understanding. I hope this makes sense.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes. Thank you,
Okay.
Prabhuji.
Any other questions? Anyone has? Okay, then. So we will stop here. Shri Isopanishads ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.